Hey there! Are you tired of quarantine? Me too. I told Leah the other day that I said I think I'm done with this. And some moments we can make jokes, and some moments it's really heavy. It's hard to make jokes. We're just getting tired of this thing. And so on this rainy morning, I'm actually thinking about Noah. You remember the story, right? God saw that every intention of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. So God chose to flood the earth and start over with the one righteous man that he found, Noah. Now, Noah wasn't perfect, but he was trying to follow God. He walked in the way of God, or with God. So God had Noah build an ark, and he and his family and two of every living creature, male and female, were put in this ark and until the flood was over. And how long did the flood last? Well, let me tell you. Genesis 7:17 says the flood continued for 40 days on the earth. Genesis 7:24 says, and the waters prevailed on the earth for 150 days. Genesis 8:4 says, and then on the seventh month, on the 17th day of the month, and the ark came to rest in the mountain of Ararat. The waters continued to abate until the 10th month. Genesis 8:6, at the end of 40 days, Noah opened a window and sent forth a raven. Genesis 8:10, he waited 7 days to send out a dove. Genesis 8:12, he waited another 7 days. How long do you think those 7 days felt? Finally, in Genesis chapter 8, verse 16, God tells Noah and his family that they can come out of the ark. Altogether, Noah and his family and all those animals were in that boat for 364 days, an entire year. Now, the ark was big, but it also had a family of 8 and 2 of every living thing in it. Imagine the smell, the chores. What did they eat? Imagine how agitated the animals must have gotten. Imagine how long those days must have seemed. I wonder, surely Noah and his family had moments of despair, sorrow, loneliness, fear. I want to share a few quick similarities that I find between Noah and his family's situation in the ark during the flood and ours. The first one is this: it was meant to protect he and his family. I know that there's a lot of debate about this right now. A lot of people are protesting. A lot of people feel that the restrictions are getting old and they're no longer as necessary. And indeed, the restrictions are starting to be lifted across the country. But one of the things that helps us during these times is to remember the why. Noah, here's the second thing. Noah and his family were isolated. They were more isolated than you and I will ever be. Not only were they had to shelter in place for a whole year, but they couldn't FaceTime or email. They couldn't see what was going on with other human beings because not only did they not have TV or internet, but there were no other human beings. So even after the ban was lifted, or the quarantine was lifted, and they could come out, they were still the only humans that they were able to see. So what I'm saying is, be grateful for what you have. The second thing that is similar between us and Noah is this: God was with them every step of the way. Do you know that the God of the universe is with you right now? Paul says in Romans chapter 8, verse 11, the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you. He tells us in Philippians 2:12 to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you. I fear that a lot of Christians say something like, yeah, I know that, but. No, there is no but. You believe that God is with you? Then live like it. Act like it. Think like it. Now listen, I know it's easy to forget that God is with you. He is invisible after all. All of us are going to forget sometimes, myself included. But when we do, we must repent of forgetting of God's presence and rejoice in rediscovering this profound truth that God is with us. Maybe some of you are suffering in this quarantine because God is trying to get you to remember simply that he's with you. Finally, I want to remind you of another similarity between Noah's story and ours. Noah was delivered. Now, I want you to notice I said that in the past tense. Noah was delivered. Now, we were delivered as well, meaning past tense. Jesus Christ delivered us when he rose again. He overcame it all. This quarantine, this pandemic, this too shall pass. The stay-at-home order will be lifted. A vaccine will most likely be discovered. A lot of things will be different for at least a while. But life will go on. And in the midst of this, don't be fooled into thinking that God needs to deliver you from this when He already has. Don't forget the gospel in your moments of despair. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.